Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Excel College Podcast. I'm your host, Andrew Chambers.
And I'm co-hosting today. My name is Austin Smith.
Yeah, you know Austin. Welcome back.
Thank you.
It's good to have you back.
Mostly just talking. I'm Matthew Conlin.
Oh, and here's our guest, Matthew Conlin. Yeah.
Have you been on this before?
No, dude.
No, this is the
Sweet.
first time.
Yeah.
And-
That's why Andrew's nervous.
Yeah.
He's
Well, yeah.
Loose cannon.
We,
No, I'm just kidding.
So Matt has been with Excel for years.
Yeah.
But just entered the college last year to actually finish his degree. He kind of did reverse style.
yeah.
Because he's a paramedic.
Yeah.
In Buncombe County.
Yep.
We won't ask you about stories.
Yeah. Yeah. They're honestly not worth telling.
But Matt saves lives for a living.
Yeah, that's one way to put it.
And today we're talking about
It takes homeless people to the hospital.
Yeah. Granny transport.
yeah, he's a transport service sometimes. But today we're talking about economics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we wanted to bring Matt on because he heavily invested in GameStop. And yeah, we just wanted to roast him a little bit.
Yeah.
About it, so.
Not GameStop. I didn't get in the good one. I got into AMC, the movie theater that was
yeah.
the little brother to GameStop.
Oh, little brother to GameStop. How's
during
that
the
going for you?
whole. Well, I mean, I made like 10 grand.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And then I learned a lot about tax code shortly after
Did
that.
you report all that on your taxes?
I had to.
There you go.
It was
Good answer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was awful. It was the worst.
We're going to talk about taxes a little bit today. I think.
Yeah.
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 Sure.
Yeah. Do you want to explain a little bit of because if you're 50 and older listening to this, you probably don't know
Right.
what
What
the
happened?
GameStop AMC thing is.
Well, if you're 50 and older, it's the same thing that happened to VW in 1980 something. Yeah. Fun fact.
What happened to VW in 1980?
Same thing. They were way underselling. A group came together and said, we're going to take this company down. And so they started shorting the stock. And then a bunch of other people, which this was back when it was big fish, right?
Yeah.
It's just big companies just moving economic chess pieces.
Yeah.
But one group decides they're going to take it down. The other group decides that they're going to bring it up because they're shorting it. And then they just invest a ton of money into it. And when you short something, you're basically betting that it's going to fall, in the Big Short, right?
Uh-huh.
The whole idea was that everybody saw the housing market and said this will never fall, and one dude was like, it's about to tumble. I want to make money when it does. And so you bet against it, but when you do that, you have unlimited opportunity for loss. And so as people start investing and that stock starts to rise, you now have a choice. I either close out on my short and lose money, or
Hold on for
dear life. And it
Oof.
just gets worse and worse and worse. And then when you short, when you sell out, it raises the price of the stock, which makes it worse for everybody else. And then all of a sudden you see this skyrocket approach happen as people are selling off their stock to avoid going completely bankrupt.
Whoa.
And so same thing's happening with GameStop. Is there was a large investment firm that was trying to tank the company during COVID, or depends how you look at it.
Yeah.
The company wasn't
They
doing
probably
it.
wouldn't say they were trying to take
Right,
the company.
right,
They were saying,
right.
we think the company's going
They
to tank.
think the company's going to tank. So they're betting against it. And then all of the video gamers who grew up going to GameStop rallied and were like, save GameStop.
All those guys on Reddit.
Oh, yeah. And became actually a formidable force and invested a ton of money and caused it to skyrocket. And then there was a bunch of legal problems with the SEC, but I'm sure here in a couple of years we'll just all watch the movie The Big Short.
Yeah,
Look
totally.
back and be interested.
They're making it so the guy that wrote this is a side note. So if you're watching this podcast and you're familiar with FTX, which is a big crypto exchange that just went under, the guy that wrote The Big Short has been embedded with FTX for the last 6 months before they even were going bankrupt.
Wow.
He was embedded with him to do a movie about them. So
What?
he's been watching this whole process. Michael
Bay.
Michael
Just explosions everywhere.
he wrote Moneyball.
I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, and he
I
wrote The
remember.
Big Short, and he was going to write a movie about FTX.
Dang.
And he was there when it all
Yeah.
blew up, so he's going to write a movie about it.
So he's still doing the movie.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Now
yeah.
now he's
Yeah.
for sure.
He's
Yeah.
like,
I wonder if
heck
he
yeah.
feels somewhat responsible.
I don't know.
Just seeing the history.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
thing. That's
Okay,
funny.
so in the economics module, we learn about shorting stocks and jumping on wild.
Right. No, literally, we watched The Big Short and we learned all about it. Not so that you can then in turn go and try and find your next big short break, and unless you do, and good for you. But really to see how entrenched economics is in just everywhere.
Yeah.
And what really is economics, because most people when they go get a economic degree from a typical like 4-year institute, they're looking to just do crunch numbers.
Look at finance. Yeah.
They're number crunchers.
Yeah. I feel like I do need to stop here and just qualify that for people that don't know us, that Matt and Austin and I are pretty sarcastic people. So that whole first 10 minutes is all
Just having fun.
Yeah, we don't do investment advice or.
Oh,
we're
yeah,
not saying
no,
it's a
you
good
gotta
thing
say
to go
that.
short and all.
Yeah. Disclaimers. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
disclaimers galore.
What is it?
We were just having fun.
I'm not a financial advisor. I'm
Yeah.
just
The guy with the cowboy hat over here is not a financial advisor.
take my financial advice. $29.99 a month, and you can buy my book.
Okay, so why? Okay, so economics is ingrained in everything. We take it we do it after sociology or government right now.
Government.
But it used to be at the end of the program, but we
Yep.
had to just move things because Italy. And
I
fine
think it
arts.
was still after government, though.
It was after fine arts too, though.
Right,
Well,
but fine arts was like
originally.
way
Originally.
further. Was it fine arts after sociology?
Originally,
Before sociology, maybe?
I can't remember the
Fine arts was somewhere.
no. But why? I guess the point is, but why? Why now? Or why? So why is
Right.
economics? Why was it originally at the end of the program? Like what?
I think honestly, to answer that question, you need to look at why is theology at the beginning, and because your two caps at the end. Well, of course, we do critical thinking now.
Yeah.
But when you're really looking at just pure program like material, you intro into theology and why. Like why do we start there? And I think the idea is that we are God's creation first. You know what I mean? And so you have this almost encompassing path where you start with, I am a child of God. I'm, dignified in that. And then you have all these resources that are given to you. And then you end with, well, what was your call in the beginning, right?
Like, what do you do with that? Yeah.
Exactly. Well, what is man's call? You know what I mean? From the garden, originally it's to steward well, and reproduce and steward, right? Make everywhere that was desert and like not garden, make it garden. And of course, now there's a whole lot more theology into like the garden in the city and all that kind of stuff. But I think that's why economics ends and follows government, because government teaches you how we set up the institutions to basically govern our world. But what are we actually governing, right? We're governing people on one hand, but what else? Why is there why does, I think it's Nevada only own like 17% of Nevada, because most of it is owned by the federal government.
What?
Fun fact.
I had no idea.
Yeah, because it's land. It's owned by the resource committees of the government.
What the?
Yeah, I mean, most of the land out west is owned by the federal government because it's our resource. So why do you have these institutions that are in charge of governing that? Why do we value it so much? And so then that blends into economics and our call, our commission, to steward and steward well.
So economics is about stewardship, you would say.
I'd say that is one of the key tenets of it. Is once you understand what stewardship is, it's stewardship of resource. Yeah. Yeah. And there's a lot into it. I think it's why it's become one of the keystones of the program itself is economics.
What would you, so like just, program wise, what are because, we have question of the week, question of the day, that kind of stuff.
Sure.
So just key takeaways from that, like what are some of the key tenets we talk about like within economics?
Right. Well, so there's 4 main themes for the week. So I kept my phone out here so I could pull it back up.
Nice.
But the 4 aspects are: how do we produce wealth, distribute wealth, exchange wealth, and consume wealth.
Produce wealth, distribute wealth,
exchange,
consume and exchange.
exchange and consume.
Exchange and
You
consume.
end with consume, with
Okay.
consumption.
Okay. What do we mean when we say wealth?
So I think wealth is defined as resource and things of value, things that are worth stewarding.
So it's not just a bunch of money?
No, it's so funny because the way that the syllabus is even set up, it leads you on this trail to think that you're talking about like dinero, and then all of a sudden Pete's just like, yeah, that's what I'm talking about, water, and it's just
snap.
like, wait a minute,
That's cool.
Bro, have you seen Book of Eli with Denzel?
It's been a while,
You
but yeah.
haven't seen Book of Eli?
no, dude,
Okay, go watch that.
okay,
But the whole so like it's post-apocalyptic kind of, Denzel has memorized the Bible, and his goal is to like take it to this place where people are reconstructing books. Because
yeah,
the most valuable things on the planet though are water and wet naps from Wendy's.
wet naps.
Yes, because there's no way to clean yourself.
Oh, word, yeah.
So like straight up the wet naps from Wendy's and water are the most valuable things on the planet. So whoever controls the water
Right.
is
So
wins.
it's like
Yeah.
Mad Max meets Fahrenheit 451.
Yes, I haven't seen Mad Max or Fahrenheit 451.
Really?
What?
I just imagine
Dude,
that.
you should watch Mad Max.
Mad Max
It's
is good.
Yeah,
It's
fun.
same concept, into the world, but instead of, Bible books, it's cars and
crazy
crazy
explosions.
people.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. So, okay, so just having a lot of money doesn't necessarily equal wealth. Ask Venezuela. I
Yeah,
guess,
no,
or
literally.
Zimbabwe.
I think it's actually the opposite because we have this idea of this horde mentality, right? Especially in the United States. I think that's now, having been to a few different countries, that's what I've seen is like we have this idea if I can just get the wealth, I'll be good. And I think we find that that's not the case. It's actually the opposite. It's this weird kingdom ideology of like the more the resource that I can steward well and give back, the more wealth I actually have, and give back more than just like handing out dollars walking down the street. You know what I mean? Like truly giving back to a community, giving back to an area, and how do you do that well and wisely? But
Yeah. I think wealth is something that's just whatever's valuable. And I think, I don't think this is explicitly said, but maybe one bigger takeaway for me is just the reinforcement that wealth is also just a mindset as well. Like it's not necessarily a piece of paper or water or something like that, although that whatever is valuable is considered wealth, but also like my mindset can be healthy or unhealthy when it concerns wealth as well.
Right.
That was one of my big takeaways.
right.
So I guess so having a lot of one resource does not necessarily equal wealth.
No, we did talk about in the first week the whole idea of purchasing power and how I think it was a video that we watched, but like was it a video about the needle production? Like these people making needles.
It's pencils.
Oh, pencils. Oh, that's right.
Yeah, eye pencil.
But like they were saying, if everyone has like a specific job, so there's someone to like put the graphite in, someone to like carve the wood, someone to put the eraser on the end, to like, but it goes through this assembly line, then you can make way more pencils than you could if you're just one person trying to make pencils.
Yeah.
And then, so the more pencils that you put out, that actually drives the cost down,
Right.
like the whole supply and demand thing.
Right.
But when the supply goes down, then that gives the individual more purchasing power.
Oh yeah,
And so
it
we
was
talked through
needles.
that.
You're talking about a different video.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But I remember the pencils one too. And it's the same concept
Right.
of like, yes, the more you have of something, actually the value diminishes on the selling end, but the individual actually has more purchasing power. So the wealth, that's where you kind of get into wealth exchange as well, of
Right.
it's essentially supply and demand. You know what I'm saying? So that was cool to learn more about.
Right.
Just like, yeah.
And straight out of government, you know what I mean? Like why is freedom so important when it comes to economics? You know what I mean? I mean, you brought up the example of Venezuela, which is, I think, a great example. When you have no purchasing power, you have no freedom.
You got money in wheelbarrows and you're buying
Yeah.
nothing.
Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah. And so
Just like in government, like we talk about like distributing the power like as far and wide as you can.
Yeah.
Like you should never, or at least the founding fathers in America, and arguably one of the better ways to do government is like there shouldn't be one central power. It should all be spread out, even down to like the family unit. Like they still have power.
Right.
And so the same almost for economics, like at least in our case,
Right.
that was the goal. Because, and really it's capitalism.
Yeah.
Right? Like this free market is like arguably one of the best ways to do it.
Right.
And even I remember Davis just talking about like the whole idea of monopolies and like how people get so mad at monopolies.
That blew my mind.
I know.
It made
Wait,
me,
talk
it
about
made
that
me mad.
because yeah.
Well, I don't remember the whole thing, but I might butcher it. You could probably help me out. But the whole idea is that Davis is like, I don't have a problem with monopolies at all.
Dude, I immediately rose up. I was like,
Yeah, I would too because we just talked about centralized power is not good.
So we went through, gosh.
Well, it's still,
Yeah.
his point is it's still the people giving that company all of their, like Apple is a good example. Sorry. Like,
Matt hates Apple.
It's all right.
well, I just read an article recently of like some companies, and I know Android does a decent job and Samsung as well, but like some companies need to like start creating something very similar to the iPhone, or Apple's literally just going to inflate and just blow up their prices because they're literally taking over.
Yeah.
And they're monopolizing. But
They can do whatever
is
they
that
want,
is that Apple's like fault or its corruption? Like
Yeah.
not
All
necessarily.
part,
It's
Or is it even reality? Here's where we got in with the like monopoly idea is we have this big monster corporation idea of they're just going to undercut every mom and pop shop and then jack their prices up so nobody can afford it.
Walmart,
Right.
except for not the jack though.
Right. Well, why didn't they jack their prices up?
Oh, because they need to keep them low for you to keep coming.
Yeah,
there.
why would you wouldn't
You need
buy
competition.
anything? And so Davis's whole idea was like, why do you care if they're selling you cheap product? Like not cheap, like made cheaply, even though
Yeah.
Walmart product isn't always the best. But like, why do you, as a consumer,
Right.
if somebody's offering you a lower price, why does that bother you?
Yeah, but wasn't the whole point about monopoly originally like with resource that was like necessary, like oil or like electricity,
Right.
and essentially like if a company could get to a point to where it controlled all of the supply and it
Sure.
could keep competitors from coming in.
But that's the thing. You'll never keep competitors from coming in, especially with how globalized we've become. A great example in this area is internet service, right? There used to be two options. You either could do Morris Broadband or dial-up Frontier. And dial-up Frontier, you were better off just holding an antenna up in the air or sending up smoke signals. And so Morris Broadband controls everything out here. And now you got like the Google Fi coming in, and now you have the Verizon Wireless like little routers that you can get, and you just as technology advances, you just can't keep these other competitors from coming in.
That is interesting. Okay.
You know what I mean? And that was the whole idea is that we are such a quick fix society.
Right, 'cause-
We're not willing to wait.
Wait 10 years for something that right.
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 Because you vote with your dollars essentially, I guess in
abso-
that sense.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I think that was one of the main points too about the monopoly is like, it's still like, hopefully it's still, the people still have enough freedom and power, if you will, to decide voting
Right.
with their money.
Yeah.
To like, okay, if this monopoly is blowing up and getting huge and people are starting to get mad at it, then boycott it.
Yeah.
Like we have the freedom
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
not
I mean,
purchase it.
that is, I think, low-key happening right now because with Amazon.
Totally.
So Amazon blew up and it was killing all of killing everybody. You know?
Yep.
I mean, literally buying up everything. And now it's actually shrinking in size.
Right.
And people are starting to go back to buying from like Sassafras down
Right.
in Black Mountain or like
Right.
mom and pop stuff.
Or Etsy,
Yeah.
where it's like individual sellers.
Which, yeah, I mean, I guess that is true.
Yeah.
I mean, that was Davis's main point. It's
Right.
like not that we necessarily like monopolies, but it's like,
Totally.
like,
It's our
so
whole
what?
base,
It's
yeah.
like
Right.
still a part of our model.
Yeah.
Well, not
Like
only
if-
that, it built the country we know now. I think that's the part that we forget is like the original monopolies made the United States a superpower. Made it strong with the railroads,
Steel
the
and
coal.
railroads,
Yeah,
yeah.
like, and ran with it, and they were uber wealthy. And why shouldn't they be?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We have this idea of like eat the rich, and why?
Well, we're in Asheville with Biltmore, And I was with Ethan Wendell and his kids over at the Biltmore, and they were asking him about like, why is this place so big? So if you don't know the Biltmore, it's like the largest private house in America.
Yeah.
8,000 acres right in the dead center of Asheville. It's insane. Like,
huge.
Beautiful place, beautiful property. They do a lot of good for Asheville. The Cecils who own the Biltmore now.
Yeah.
But the Vanderbilts were a railroading family. And something that Ethan told his daughters when we were there, so Ethan owns Diamondback truck covers. So that he told his daughters is whenever there's a new technology that's going to change the world, whoever controls it, technology is going to make a lot of wealth because they're stewarding a resource that's
Sure.
and which is a good thing, I think, and you should be rewarded if you're. But so, and to your point, I think like America wouldn't be where it's at unless there were some people that had the vision and the drive to build railroads from here to dang San Francisco
And stewardship of those resources. And
Yeah. So if he made a lot of money doing that, he could build a really big house. Like good for him, Like it's easier for San Francisco exists now, And
that's where I think the wealth mentality section comes in, because if you're not wealthy, like you can look at that and be jealous or mad or upset, but like just steward what's yours, and then if you steward it well, you'll probably gain more, you know, and that's like living wise and productive.
Why do you think so? Societally, we don't like rich people right now in this societal moment. I would say, we're like, take them down. They should give all of us the money.
Unless it's Elon Musk. We all love Elon Musk.
Yeah. Not right now. He's getting a lot of.
Is he getting a lot of
Some
flack?
shade for sure.
Oh, dang.
But he's always gotten shade.
Oh yeah. But like, why do you think that is? It's like the dude built a railroad to San Francisco, and now all of us can ride over there. So,
I mean, not to get political, but like, I think there's some corruption there where the big player, like money is power to an extent.
Sure.
Like,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So I think some big players make poor choices with their money, and then it affects a lot of people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think we give them a bad rap in general.
Yeah.
Because I think honestly, if you've morally made your money well, then good for you. Like that's my mentality.
Yeah.
But I think we've just seen a lot of corruption with some of the 1%ers,
That's real.
I think that's a huge aspect, but I think there's also this like prevalent poverty mindset that the world is a zero-sum game and they have all the money and that's why I have none of the money.
Yeah.
It's because there's like, X amount of dollars in the world and they've taken them all.
the fixed pie.
The fixed pie.
Yeah.
The fixed pie. And it's just, it's...
Whereas we printed more, like 40% of the entire money supply in 2020. So,
Which literally diminishes all of our purchasing power.
Well, so I went to Aldi the other day, and eggs were $3.29 for a dozen
And that's
eggs.
expensive at Aldi too.
Dude, I bought eggs during the pandemic for 69 cents.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then 99 was the standard.
Oh, yeah.
So it's like, did eggs gain more value, or did my dollar lose value?
Here's the weird thing is gas prices are still coming down.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of a weird. I don't understand that situation.
We're
fully.
blowing through our reserves.
I do want to get back to the wealthy thing, so we talk about stewardship. Like, it's a biblical principle of like, hey, you give this guy 1 talent, he buried it, did nothing.
Right.
Yep.
You give this guy 2, he doubled it. This guy 5, he doubled it. This guy 10, and he doubled it.
Something like that.
Something like that, right? Wasn't it?
The next guy 20 and he doubled it, and the next guy 30 and he doubled it. There's a lot of guys.
So like, but he took the resource that he had and used it, and then it brought back. So I think there is a I would even say a biblical principle there of like, if you steward what you have really well, it will return back to you.
Right.
For sure.
So like Google, for example, is huge, and a lot of people complain about Google or whatever. But like, I use Google Suite for all of our, and it's like $29 a month.
Right.
And all of our emails are there, all of our documents, like everything.
Right.
They've added a ton of value to me,
Right.
and they found a way to add it to millions of people at a very cheap cost to them, and they're making a bunch of money.
Yeah.
I don't care. Like,
And for the most part, it's free to them, right? They have increased the wealth of the knowledge of the world, 100-fold. You can literally just be like,
at least 100-fold.
You know what I mean? And it costs you, whatever it costs to get to an internet access, and it's incredible.
Yeah.
Incredible.
I think this stewardship principle can actually inform our giving.
It does.
Because, you hear the Jewish proverb of, like, give a man a fish, he'll eat for a day, teach a man a fish, he'll eat for a lifetime. But if you think, like, we were made to steward, like, we were made as God's representatives and stewards of the world, then, like, me doing right by somebody means empowering them to be that person again.
Have you heard the Ron Swanson version of that quote?
No, but I'd love to hear it.
It's way better.
Can you?
It's what? Give a man a fish, he'll eat for a day. Don't teach a man to fish. He's a what is
a
it?
grown man.
He's a grown man. Fishing's not that hard.
Oh, Parks and Rec. One
Yeah,
time.
Parks and Rec,
I
yeah.
had his face in my mind as you're saying that. Oh, it's hilarious.
Oh, dude, it's so funny.
Chad and I used to watch that all the time. We don't.
Dude, it's hilarious.
Yeah,
Such a good
it's
show.
so funny.
He's probably one of my favorite TV characters.
Don't teach a man to fish.
He's a man. It's not that hard.
Well, speaking on that a little bit, it was more in sociology when we talked about it, but we watched a series of videos called The Poverty Cure.
Yeah.
And it's all about like Americans going into like third world countries and like giving them like a lump sum donation or even just like building them a house or a school or whatever
Well, even here in the
missionaries do
States, just
normally.
yeah.
But like they were saying that's absolutely like terrible for their economy because you're essentially handing them either this large building that now they have to steward with or you're giving them this lump sum that they might go through and might improve a little bit, but then they're left back at zero again. So they were like, the best thing that you can do is go help them, like try to cultivate whatever region they're in, like the land, like try to figure out what plants grow, what, you know what I'm saying? Like just actually help them cultivate their own production of wealth.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and it's why was America so successful and Africa is still, parts of Africa, is still, fairly poor. It's not because we're the God ordained Americans that are, there was a building process, and for a long time America was not wealthy until it built up this grand infrastructure and sold what it had. It was a producing state for a long time. And whereas in, there's a lot of terrible things that have gone down in Africa and in, parts of Eastern Europe that have kept them from actually being able to build up infrastructure. But now they're at a place where they could, if they didn't keep receiving these handouts.
Well, there's countries that are like, so Nigeria, for example, is producing a ton of wealth.
Yeah.
And there's actually a ton of entrepreneurship happening over there.
Right.
Which is, it's so fun to, there's if you go to Africa, there's these ladies that run those little corner shops that just have knickknacks and snacks and all this kind of stuff. And typically they would have to go 12 hours away to a warehouse to get all the goods and come back. And so there's just not a lot of margin and blah, 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 blah. Well, these entrepreneurs over there started a distribution service essentially that takes stuff from the warehouse. They deliver it to all these little corner shops. So it's cheaper for the ladies because they don't have to go as far. So it's cheaper for everybody else to buy. And that's almost a unicorn company, which is $1 billion startup. Right. And that's starting to happen in certain areas that are allowing for that to happen.
Wow.
Yep.
But you look at Zimbabwe when I think it was Mugabe took over, and he just stole all the mines and all the farms from all the the white people that were in charge, and that's just fact. I'm not trying to make it. It just is what it is, And then now, so when I was in South Africa, there's a ton of Zimbabweans in South Africa because they didn't know how to farm, they didn't know how to mine, and there was a certain group of people that did do that, and then the government stole all their farms because we're in charge now, and then so Zimbabwe went from resource rich and and to not, and so now everybody's in South Africa looking for work, and and you even look at models like we'll say Rom's Ruse.
Rom's Ruse.
What's that?
Tom's Shoes. I was trying to say Tom's Shoes, but there it is.
Just
It's
Tom's Shoes.
buy a pair of
Rhymes
shoes and
with-
then they give a pair of
Do you know
shoes
his
away.
name's not even Tom?
No, it's not. It's
Yeah. He
whatever.
did
He was on Shark Tank.
he did the Amazing Race.
He did?
Yeah, and while he was in Africa, he saw all the little African kids with no shoes.
No, Argentina.
Argentina.
Yeah.
Oh, word.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
where you got going.
Yeah. The story goes that it was Africa.
Oh,
but,
really?
That he saw all these kids with no shoes, and it moved his heart so much that he just started dumping shoes. And they take those shoes and they throw them away.
Well, which in theory, I mean, it's okay, not going to roast the guy. He's got a good heart.
Sure.
These guys need shoes. But, the whole story, I don't know if it was, there's a book, not The Poverty Cure, but When Helping Hurts. And their story around that is, So when Tom is out giving shoes out for everyone we buy, he gives a shoe away. Then then no one's buying shoes from like the shoemaker in that town,
Right.
in Argentina or in Africa or whatever.
Right.
And so then he goes out of business. And so essentially we just gave
Right.
material, but added no reciprocal
Right.
value.
Right.
And that was definitely not
Right.
Homeboy's intention, I would
Right.
probably
Right.
say.
Right.
But
Yeah.
and I think they've actually, and just to be, I just want to be fair to them, I think they've actually like gotten that feedback and changed their model to where they're actually moving some of their factories into these countries where they're giving a lot of shoes away.
That's cool.
Yeah. So just want to qualify that. I think
Yeah.
I think they've heard that feedback and are trying to make some model changes to add value.
Right.
There.
Yeah.
So
That's exactly what the video went into. Is like they showed this guy who was I don't even know what he was doing. He was a clothes maker or something. He's like one of those, we'll just call him a shoemaker. And he's like, how do I he made furniture or medical supplies. And then he's like, how do I compete with free? How do I compete with like I'm making these medical beds for these hospitals and they're just bringing them in from the US, and how do I compete with that?
wow. Wow.
You know what I mean?
You can't.
You can't.
Yeah.
There was a Mexican philosopher that was talking to a group of U.S. Peace Corps members, like in the 70s, and the title of his speech. So he's giving a speech to a bunch of Peace Corps people, and the title of his speech was "To hell with your good intentions."
Yeah.
And what he said was like, if you want to come help Mexico, don't come to help. Like, come visit our libraries, come like see our flowers, come climb our volcanoes, like come eat our food.
Yeah.
But for the love of God, don't come to help.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Be a tourist.
Yeah.
Enjoy what they have.
Yeah.
I mean, so many people make most of their money on tourism.
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, and that's the reality that we're finding is the world is not a zero-sum game. And it hasn't been for a long time. You don't need to take your neighbor's stuff to get more, or give your neighbor things if he doesn't have for him to get more. But if you help him produce, the rest of the world will do better.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Where are the Elon Musks of like Eastern Europe? You know what I mean? Where,
Yeah.
if they're cultivated well,
Yeah.
think about what we can produce.
Well,
as
they're
a,
there.
as a
I mean,
world.
Spotify.
Straight up.
Yeah.
Straight up.
All
They're,
those
I
guys-
mean,
yeah,
it's not because
yeah.
they're not smart. It's because they need resource. They need the ability to like be allowed to produce.
Yeah.
And just giving stuff away just undercuts that.
And I think, to be fair, like, there's a lot in all this, but like that's why we study like government before, just because it's somewhat of like the way that your structure is set up, how an individual can flourish or not. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
i.e. in Eastern Europe when it was under certain communism
Right.
and certain mentalities,
Right.
like you couldn't
Right.
create.
Yeah.
Yeah.
there's just a lot more opportunity.
Yeah. Well, I was in Southeast Asia for a while, in Laos, communist country. I mean, dirt roads everywhere. So everyone that you kind of get assigned what you can do. So there was I remember being on this street and they had a bunch of restaurants on it, and every restaurant you went into served the exact same thing.
Whoa.
The exact same thing.
Dang.
And so there was no like ability to kind of
Right.
like to
Because they couldn't.
you no, yeah,
they
they
wouldn't
weren't
let him?
allowed to.
Wow.
Yeah, like you can serve chicken and rice today.
Wow.
Or
Right.
you can serve soup today.
Yeah.
And there's like no one in all these restaurants. It's like, 'cause,
Right.
Right.
yeah.
Dang. Yeah, that's crazy.
So government is, I think, important because it can dictate how you can steward.
Right.
Yeah, I think the infrastructure
Wow.
is super important.
Or lack of dictation. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that's really where economics thrives. Is the more freedom, the more you give to the individual to be able to create, the more he can. You know what I mean? When you start to like you're talking about, like rule over what he can and can't do, or like who he can trade with. Because we talked about that with the tariffs of like, should we set up tariffs to even protect our own businesses in the United States to keep from being undersold from China, right?
Yeah.
Like, should we? And I think what we found was like, the more you do that, the more you're going to reduce your ability to buy, your freedom to actually produce yourself. Yeah.
Yeah. That's super interesting.
Yeah. It was a good one. It was a good module. It was like definitely more eye-opening to me just because, I don't know, I just thought I maybe had more of a closed mindset, and I'm not like super economics minded, but even just like with the monopolies. And then there was one discussion that we had where we put up like 2 different salaries, like one of a professional baseball player and another of the high school, like the high school public teacher.
Yeah.
And one's like, whatever, if he's like an amazing baseball player,
20 million a year.
Yeah. Like, and then the high school teacher's like 40,000 or something.
Yeah.
And it's like, is this fair?
Yeah.
Is this right?
Is this just? Yeah.
And that was actually a fun discussion because people like really went back and forth on that.
Yeah.
Just like, no, it's not fair. Like we should cap the baseball players, salary and give it to the teacher.
Dude, I went back
and it's like,
forth,
should we?
Like, why should we do that? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And, I think there's still some people that walked away maybe with questions, but like, I think we kind of at the end, at least my group, we were just like, I think it's fine.
Yeah.
Because that's what the people pay for.
Yeah.
Like the entertainment industry,
jerseys,
like people get all mad that quarterbacks make, all this money. And it's like, well, you watch football every weekend.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you're tuning into ESPN all the time. Yeah.
Well, I remember this happening so college football coaches are like the highest paid state employee in a lot of states because they're at public universities. And so Mac Brown, this was in early 2000s, he was making $2 million a year at Texas. And this was when $2 million for a coach was a lot. Now they're making $8-9 million a year. Yeah. But people were like, well, how does the English department professor make $40,000 a year? Which I agree. Like, I mean, that guy needs to make a living wage. And Mac Brown's making $2 million. Like, well, Mac Brown pays for the English department probably through college, through coaching. Because ad revenue and jersey sales and fans coming to the game and all that kind of stuff. Like he's actually creating value. And a lot of universities do that where football is like actually pays for a lot of other sports.
Right. Well, not just the English department where it's something you have to have, right? He pays for the weird like geology department that, has 8 students in it. Yeah. But they want to offer it.
And it's attractive for the school, so maybe more people come to the school.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Provides a lot of value.
Right. Yeah. That's so interesting.
It is super interesting.
I think it comes back to that zero-sum game again. It's where we get upset because, well, he's making $2 million and I'm not. Like, he's got all the. That's the reason I don't have money is because he's got it all.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, and what's the big? I think a big debate right now is around like, if you give everyone, if you're striving for equal opportunity, everyone's got a shot to do. But if you strive for everyone to have equal outcome, then there's no freedom, essentially.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I think that's. I don't think we've said that in class necessarily, but equal opportunity doesn't mean equal outcome.
Right. Yeah.
And it shouldn't, honestly.
Right.
Like, be it as it may. I mean, I might never make 6 figures in my life. I don't know. Yeah. But like, that's okay. Like if I'm comfortable with what I'm doing and like I have a little bit of, and we've lost a lot of this. Like we have really lost a lot of this because really if America was founded on these more biblical principles, which is coming from government, like what we were just learning, like we've lost so much of that today. But like, if I'm fine with what I do and it brings me life and I'm like living somewhat comfortably, like I'm fine. Yeah. And I'm okay with somebody that makes $2 million a year. You know what I mean?
Because you're fine.
Yeah, exactly. Right. But yeah, it's again, I always go back to that like the mindset of wealth. It's like poverty or a wealth mindset. It's like I'm wealthy because I can pay my bills, throw a little in savings, and do what I love to do. Yeah. You know what I mean? Totally. And have healthy marriage and family. Yeah. Like if that's like my goal, and whether I make more than that, it's just a bonus that I can try to steward well. You know?
Yeah, and Davis brought that up too. It was like, what does who was the example that he used? I can't remember. He named some millionaire. He's like, what does he have that I don't? You know what I mean? What does he have access to that I don't? He's like, yeah, he has these like high quality, he's got this yacht and all this stuff, but he's like, for the most part, I got all the same stuff. Like he's got a car, I got a car, I can transport myself around. Like he has access to fresh water. So do I. Yeah. In an instant. Yeah. You know what I mean? And so it's, we all want this nice stuff, but to truly live, and live comfortably, like you don't actually need that much. But you should be encouraged to make lots of money if that's something you want to do, like to give back. But
yeah, I think my takeaway from that is like the more you steward your responsibility well, the more wealth I think you have, because the more you're given to steward, you know. Yeah. Right. And I think that's probably one of the reasons why you can see like family generations. Like a business in a family will last like a generation or two. Then third or
It'll
fourth,
die
it
out.
kind of squanders it because they weren't in charge of stewarding that.
Right.
You know,
Yep.
that's interesting.
And I mean, of course, we're coming from our own myth, our own bias, but like, he who is faithful with little will be given much.
Yeah.
And I think that's
Yeah.
actually true.
Totally.
And the more you live wisely and you steward your resource, you steward your wealth, like, I think it's a kingdom principle.
Totally.
You know?
Totally.
And honestly, like, if we're like you were saying, like, to be fruitful, multiply, subdue, like the whole first original mandate or blessing that God gave man, it's like the whole goal is for me to like sustain myself and then give everything away. You know what I mean? Or like bless people around me. And that's not just like giving handouts necessarily, but it's like just giving my time away, not just my money, but my time and my knowledge and resource.
Digging
and, you know,
wells. Yeah.
yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And I think it's biblical.
Right.
You know?
I think so. And if our calling got, in a sense, upgraded, right, through Christ, of like now it's go and make disciples. What does that look like from an economic standpoint? Like it's not just me stewarding my things well, but it's teaching those around me to steward their things well.
Teach them how to sign up for Robinhood.
Yeah.
How to get them.
Dude, no, don't sign up for
AMC.
Robinhood.
Robinhood.
Robinhood's terrible.
Don't do it. Yeah, and I think part of it also is like recognizing what season you're in and what you've been given. Totally. It's like a lot of our guys in the core, they're like, I want to be out there making money. Like
Yep.
You know, it's like, like you're paying bills for the first time. Like you have college tuition to pay, and you are,
and you're doing school.
and you're doing school.
Yeah.
Like what you're stewarding right now is your like character, your intellect,
Your
you
mind,
know, like,
yeah.
and preparing for that space, and then like,
Yeah.
okay, now practicum's here. Okay, let's start building a savings account. Let's start building credit. Like,
Totally.
you know,
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah. Don't get in a bunch of debt right before you go into your practicum. Don't do it.
That's a bad idea.
It's a bad idea.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about stewardship, and I think you guys end the economics module at the graveyard, which is where we start theology.
Right.
So,
Right.
tell me about that. Like,
Well, I think the idea of keeping the end in mind, right? Because that's why we start there. We start there with contemplating the dash, right, between the two birth and death years. And then we end there with, talking about a couple of different things. But one of the things is, what are you actually leaving behind? Like, what are you leaving for future generation? What was it all for? You know what I mean? Because I think there's a lot of people who just wealth generate, and then they die, and then the state takes half of it in taxes, because even if you die, you're still not free from the tax man. And then you give it to your kids, and then they use it to pay off their couple of debts, and then they build their own wealth, and the cycle continues. But then you have people who have left behind like legacies and companies and have improved the way we do things for generations and generations. And that's really what economics comes back to, is it's stewardship. Proper stewardship. And what's left, you have a graveyard, right? And you look at it and you're like, what are the untapped dreams that live in this graveyard? What are the mantles that have been, given by God that now lie here and will never be fulfilled? Not as a scare tactic, you know what I mean? But as like
right.
We think that we are going to live forever. We really do. And truth is, you probably won't. And then of course, like, what is this life for? What are we setting ourselves up for in the next life? You know what I mean? Not that we're taking, wealth with us, but we're building experience, and we're building things that will last into eternity.
Oh, dude.
And what are those things?
The end of Revelation, where he talk about the kings of the earth bring their glories into the kingdom.
Yep.
Tim Keller does a great talk where he talks about like just in the like once the glory of the Lord fills the earth, like everything we love about cities and is amazing about cities is going to be there.
Yep.
Everything that like makes cities suck not going to be there.
Yep.
And it's like, what are you making that endures?
Yeah.
Until then?
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
That's great.
Yeah.
Right.
Cool.
Yeah. Sweet.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Economics
Economics.
was
great.
the final module. Now it's kind of in the
Yeah.
Yeah.
3, 4.
Now we read books and go see art.
Yeah. It kind of works both ways. Like the way we do it now with the fine arts at the end, I think I think still works really well.
Yeah.
But I can see how economics
Yeah.
Right.
or it was originally the last
Yeah.
module.
Yeah, because I guess fine arts then is like crescendo of like what we.
I think so too, because
Right.
we go from all this, very analytical, like expository, like all these readings.
Yeah.
And then when literature and fine arts come up, it like totally switches.
Yeah.
Right.
And then we're like actually contemplative
Yeah.
Right.
instead of analytical and like
Right.
forming these beliefs and thoughts or unpacking assumptions or
Right.
whatever. Then when it gets to literature and fine arts, we like step back and we actually appreciate and like
Right.
contemplate things
Right.
for like their beauty.
Right.
Yeah.
And you can see things that do last, well, forever. But like when you go see the Colosseum for the first time,
Right.
that is something that was like is a level of stewardship to it. You know what I mean? It's just a big building, but it's a big building. It's 2,000 plus years old and has left a
Still
legacy, and it's still there.
Right.
Crazy.
You know.
So I think it works both
Yeah.
how we do it now versus how it was designed as well. Like there's still such a nice flow to it.
It's awesome. It's awesome.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, economics. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
You got any hot takes for us before we leave?
Yeah. Buy GameStop. Still on it.
Watch Michael Lewis's movie on FTX that he's writing.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
that's
yeah.
gotta be-
Michael Lewis is the guy's name.
Yeah,
Nice.
Michael Lewis.
Not Michael Bay.
Dude.
Not Michael Bay.
Michael Bay.
Just explode.
You make it way better.
Yeah. Okay. By the way, so we talked about The Big Short. If you haven't watched The Big Short and you're going to watch it after we talked about it today,
Oh yeah, yeah.
there's some
Disclaimer.
scenes you should probably fast
Yeah.
forward through.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of language, but it's a great movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, great movie.
Read about the
Informative.
Big Short.
Maybe read about The Big Short. Yeah. Yeah.
Yep. Or just get prepared.
Yeah.
Be prepared.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. I mean, honestly, and like, just if you're somebody that likes to learn and pay attention, the next couple of years would be really good to pay attention to economically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot going on.
Yep.
Yeah. And just do your research on things. There's a lot of things that tie into economics where people are up in arms and you really start looking into it and you're like, that might actually be a terrible idea.
Yeah. Have you read the Uncle Eric series?
Uh-uh.
So it's this guy that was like an economist that wrote a bunch of little books like he was writing to an 8th grader, like to his 13-year-old nephew. It's called the Uncle Eric series. Brilliant expositions on like inflation. So there's one called like Whatever Happened to Penny Candy.
Yeah.
And then there's one called The Money Mystery, which is about like the Fed and printing money and all that
Right.
kind of stuff. So if you're into learning about economics, the Uncle Eric series.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool.
It's a good series. Caleb Wade actually recommended it too.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Nice.
Shout out to Caleb Wade.
Shout out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, awesome. Cool.
Sweet,
we did
dude.
it.
We did it.
That's we recorded all of our core podcast.
Yep.
Dunzo.
Yep.
We'll
Yeah.
see you guys next year.
For now, till they introduce a new module.
Yeah.
Mystery module.
Mystery module.
Well,
What would be a mystery module?
huh? Mystery
If
module?
we were to create a module from scratch
Well,
to go into the core program, what would the subject be?
to go into the core?
Like to insert it into the core.
Oh, I don't know. It's pretty well rounded.
Jam packed.
Music? No.
That's kind of
Dude,
fun.
Jam-packed.
actually, doing anatomy,
Crypto.
physiology.
Ooh, that would be
Bro,
fun.
Crypto?
when I did it,
Oh.
No, crypto. A whole module.
dude, I
Just
learned,
crypto.
and this was before the core, right? But I learned so much in my anatomy and physiology
Oh, yeah.
classes, and about like how like ornate man is. It's crazy.
Pete Lackey, if you're watching this,
We need anatomy.
we
and
need a core
physiology.
module on anatomy and physiology. Where would
Yeah.
that go? Right after biology?
Yeah,
Right before man.
Right before
like
man.
anthropology.
That would be
Yeah.
so cool.
Yeah.
We did it.
dude. There you go.
Core subject.
Get on it. Thanks, Pete.
Not that we're poking holes in it. Or anything.
No.
Honestly.
It's freaking brilliant.
Yeah. All right. Well, see you guys next time.
Bye.
Bye.